Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and it seems like Xbox and Activision are teasing a surprise remake for next month. Yeah, there for a while, its future was a little bit in doubt, but they now seem to be indicating otherwise, and if this turns out to be what it seems to be, then there's going to be a lot of happy campers out there sometime soon. Now, we also got another update from Shu Yoshida as he's gone public with a lot of Sony information this past week. This, however, was a mistake that he made in the past, and yeah, he definitely seems to regret this one as he upset a premier studio that could have otherwise given PlayStation exclusive rights to one of the most praised franchises in gaming history. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Just thank you so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Split Fiction. This is Hazelight's next game, and actually just one of my favorite studios right now because they lead by example. I mean, here you have this insanely creative studio with a passionate leader, and they make these amazing cooperative-driven experiences. Games like It Takes Two and A Way Out, I mean, these are flat-out just fantastic games. And, I mean, Split Fiction seems to be cut from the same cloth, albeit it might be even more creative based on some of the gameplay that we've seen so far. The thing about these games, though, is that they're designed to be mandatory cooperative games. You know, you have to have a partner to play them. And I just kind of know how the game industry works. There's just so many studios out there that would force you to buy 2 copies of said game to play with somebody else online. But that's not how Hazelight goes about things. Their games comes with a friend pass, which basically means that you can invite anybody to play with you online, even if they don't own the game themselves. Now, clearly, this business practice worked out for them as they sold 20+ million copies of It Takes Two. I mean, who knew that consumers gravitate towards fun experiences that actually, puts the player first? I'm just kind of saying. But Hazelight has once again outdone themselves. Check this out. They just announced this on Twitter. Yes, it really is back, this time with Crossplay. We're talking about Friends Pass, of course. If you buy Split Fiction, anyone can play the entire game with you for free online. And now on any platform as well. Doing all we can to help out. Now it's up to you to grab a friend on March 6th and dive in. So, I mean, that's just absolutely an incredible announcement. And I'd even go so far as to say that this is groundbreaking. I mean, again, I just kind of know how the game industry works, and I don't expect this to become a common trend for other studios, but that's just all the more reason you got to love Hazelight. Split Fiction is an easy game to root for, and just really an easy day one buy, in my opinion. Now, we also got an announcement for a Nintendo-related showcase, and no, this is not the rumored Nintendo Direct that everybody seems to be talking about. That'll happen when it happens, if it happens at all. But we do have a Pokemon Presents to look forward to. This, of course, is going to be on Pokemon Day, which is February 27th. Go ahead and mark your calendars, and I definitely think that Pokemon fans are going to want to tune into this one specifically. I mean, we'll get our usual updates for games like Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite, and Cafe, but I do think that there's going to be 2 big reveals here, which will be for Pokemon Legends EA and for Pokemon TCG Pocket, which continues to thrive. I know for a fact that another booster pack for TCG Pocket was discovered through a data mine. It allegedly will release on February 28th with a Pokemon Day reveal. So if you're into that game, that'll be exciting. And hopefully, we'll finally get some gameplay for Pokemon Legends EA. Now, personally, I'm very curious to see that game because Legends Arceus, in my opinion, was just the most refreshing take for the Pokemon formula that we've seen in a very, very long time. So I want to see how they're going to hopefully improve upon that formula even more. Personally, for me, I want to see more trainer battles because I thought that was where Legends Arceus was at its best, but it just didn't have enough of them. Now, we also got an update for Pokemon's biggest rival, or at least in Nintendo's mind. Of course, they filed a lawsuit against this company, being Pocket Pair. Well, they just announced that Palworld surpassed 32 million players for its first year, and if you didn't hear that, that was Nintendo screams in the background. For real, though, I mean, I don't think anybody expected Palworld to blow up the way that it did, but here we are. You know, who knew that Pokemon with guns could be so popular? Quite honestly, though, Palworld does play a lot different. You know, I do understand that its designs are a little bit sketchy. There's definitely some similarities, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But in terms of gameplay, it's actually a lot more similar to games like Ark Survival Evolved rather than it is to Pokemon. Either which way, though, I mean, big congrats to Pocket Pair, and hopefully they'll continue to improve it as time goes on. Okay, so let's go into this remake that Xbox and Activision are seemingly teasing at this very moment, and that's for Tony Hawk. Now, we actually talked a little bit about this yesterday because a pro skater recently told somebody in an interview that he is in an upcoming Tony Hawk game. So there is a legitimate reason to believe that's what Activision is currently teasing. But let's just go and check out the latest on this and what exactly is happening here. So Season 2 of Black Ops 6 just launched today, and as a part of its update, it has a new map titled Grind, which is actually a returning map from previous games. But immediately, the name itself stands out here. Grind. That's something that you do when skateboarding. But that's not even the truly interesting part here. Where this gets really exciting is that players have spotted that inside a skate shop located in the map, there's a poster on a wall that reads 03.04.25 inside a logo that looks oddly similar to the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series. I mean, I'll just go and throw up a logo here for comparison's sake and let you be the judge, but I think it's pretty clear. This does seem to be related to a Tony Hawk 3+4 remaster. Now, to be fair, we don't actually know that it's going to be 3+4. Technically, it could be for something else or just one of the two. But something that we do know for a fact is that there were originally plans for a 3+4 remake. Back in 2022, Tony Hawk said this in an interview. I mean, that was the plan. Even up until the release date of this Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2, we were going 3 and 4. And then Vicarious got kind of absorbed and they were looking for other developers and then it was over. The truth of it is, they, as in Activision, were trying to find someone to do 3+4, but they just didn't really trust anyone the way they did Vicarious. So they took other pitches from other studios like, what would you do with the Tony Hawk Pro Skaters title? And they didn't like anything that they heard, and that was it. So, to me, that's where this situation is kind of bizarre. I mean, Vicarious Visions, based on everything that we've heard, seem to have plans for it. And Activision seemed to want to do it as well, based off of what he said. But that's kind of the odd part, because it was Activision that ultimately pulled them away to support other games instead, like Diablo 4. To me, this is just all the more reason that I was thrilled that Toys for Bob, the Crash 4 and Spyro Reignited studio, got away from Activision. They were also kind of heading down that same path of being absorbed into the Call of Duty series as a support studio. But fast forward to now, and for whatever reason, it does kind of seem like Activision got things figured out for Tony Hawk. And despite rumors that it would be revealed at the Xbox Summer Showcase, this indicates that we could actually get an announcement as early as next month on March 4th. Now, of course, nothing's confirmed just yet, but if it happens, what we do know here is that Xbox now owns Activision, so theoretically, it'll likely be announced for Xbox Game Pass, and just kind of knowing their multi-platform plans, especially when it comes to Activision titles, I would also expect the inclusion of PlayStation and PC as well. Now, for you Nintendo fans out there, the first 2 remakes are actually available on the Switch, but just kind of given how close the Switch 2 is by this point, I'm kind of expecting a Switch 2 reveal at a later date instead. I'm fairly certain that Xbox will be one of the biggest publishers on the Switch 2 for its first year, and that very well could include Tony Hawk 3+4 as well. Now, moving on here, PlayStation's former Shu Yoshida has been making waves this past week as he's been airing all of Sony's business to the public, and this time, he talked about one of his biggest regrets as a PlayStation leader. And I mean, hindsight is a beautiful thing. I still think Shu Yoshida did an excellent job at PlayStation as a whole. But I mean, yeah, this was a pretty big mistake on his part, because in a different timeline, if he and Sony would have gone about things in a different way, then Sony very well could have been the publisher for the Dark Souls series. And who knows, maybe even Elden Ring as well. So yeah, let's just go and check out what happened here. This was posted up on VGC where they said, Demon's Souls was developed by FromSoftware in collaboration with Sony Japan Studio. During the game's development, it was planned that the game would be published globally by Sony, but this didn't come to be. Shu said that FromSoftware was already working on a sequel, but they were so disappointed with how PlayStation treated them, we wanted to work with them again, but they passed on it. Now, this also leans into his statement back in 2012 when he said, "For my personal experience with Demon's Souls, when it was close to final, I spent close to 2 hours playing it, and after 2 hours, I was still standing at the beginning of the game. I said, this is crap. This is an unbelievably bad game, so I put it aside." Luckily, third-party publishers, Atlas in North America and Namco in Europe, stepped in, and it really became a great hit outside of Japan. Yeah, I mean, like I said, hindsight's a beautiful thing, but it is kind of amusing to think that he once thought that Demon's Souls, in his words, was crap. I mean, I remember when Demon's Souls first launched in America. Prior to that, this was actually the only game that I ever considered importing from Japan. I do not know how to read Japanese or even understand Japanese. So, I was very back and forth on this, but thankfully it did eventually get ported over, and I bought it day one. And even back then, I knew it was a special and unique game. So to kind of hear that Sony couldn't see that themselves because they viewed it as too difficult, I think kind of speaks to some of the hand-holding nature that we just so often see in modern games. Thankfully, FromSoftware has never caved to that mentality, but this is definitely one of the more interesting what-if stories in gaming. If Sony would have gone about this in a different way, who knows where FromSoft games would be right now, but in all truth, I think this kind of worked out better for them. Now they have this massive appeal worldwide and on all platforms. So yeah, I think FromSoftware definitely won in this situation. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.